Words!
Words.
Oh, actually, so it's a good thing we do the sound test because I actually forgot my mic was disabled in the actual stream software, so people couldn't see me saying spalb. So now we're good. I think we're safe and stable here to start talking about libertarian messaging. That's the subject of tonight's Strump. So, um, the previous streams have been overwhelmingly about like things involving the party, but I want to focus on theory more than the party going forward. And the party will still have streams, right? I'm still going to cover the corruption, but I figure we can do that once a week, like on Thursday or something. And that during like the rest of the week, we can do like, 2 or 3 other streams that are like, more theory focused or something like that. So, this one, trying to restrain a massive belch because I'm sure the audience wants to hear that. This one will be a stream about how to best plant the seeds of liberty. And I used Sonic characters in the thing because there's a scene in one of the comics where Silver has like a garden that he grows out of a crater that was left from a bomb. So that's to me, I think, symbolically great, and I love that scene. So I figured I would use it and make it one of my mentally ill thumbnails. Also to piss off the people who don't like that I like things and want to shit on me for that. So, that being said, y'all introduce yourself. We will start with John because he is new to the Strump.
Hi, I'm John Ponte. I'm the chief editor of Liberty Centuries. I've been writing previously in regards to issues within the Libertarian Party, such as the current corruption, as well as writing previously about general theory or philosophical issues regarding libertarianism and anarchism generally.
You forgot to say that you're also looking for the Allspark.
I swear, Joe.
Kareem, you're muted. You can't speak.
I was going to tell John, just to let him know, if he feels bad about looking for the Allspark, he can find the guilty spark. But watch out, they'll unleash Flood. And
right.
Flood, in this day and age, are basically Democrats or Republicans because they have no mind of their own. They have Kamala and Trump for the grave mind, and they just affect people and then with little spores, which is the mainstream media.
And I'm sure that dehumanizing people right off the bat is good libertarian messaging, but the joke is funny. Joseph, we'll go with you, and then we'll go Dana.
What?
So I'm a former libertarian candidate in the state of Idaho, currently working with Kind Idaho to legalize, just decriminalize cannabis.
Legalize meth.
Now. We got an initiative coming up, right? Decriminalize cannabis now, focusing on getting people and organizations like the Democratic Socialists of America to repeal taxes. Let's get the socialists to get rid of taxes. How's that for, spreading the liberty? We can work on these processes. We can find common ground, remove taxes, remove the bans on plants. And that's a big thing. You don't need to be part of the party to promote liberty, to promote words of liberty. We sow the seeds of liberty and harvest freedom as a result.
And you, Dana.
I'm Dana. I left the Libertarian Party for 1.5 years, and then I fell off the wagon, came back, supported Mises for a minute, never a caucus member. I've run for office multiple times. I've been on boards. I've done the thing over and over, knocked the doors, kissed the babies, shook the hands. But the biggest wins that I ever have is creating anarchists. I'm way better at that. Every time I talk to somebody, they're like, why would I join the Libertarian Party? well, because, we can make a name and we could do the thing and spread the message. You're like, well, we're spreading the message without the party because we live up north in Michigan. So the party is very seldom ever pretended we actually exist. And so it's like, yeah. So we've admitted over and over that I'm way better at doing the thing, as I call it. And we've created all kinds of communities and help people and have so much going on. And I would spend a day telling you all about it. But yeah, like Joseph said, we don't need the bucket party. We don't need the thing. And we need to, and I just have to say something because I've never said this before. What brought me to Jeremiah was Kareem. Because I saw Kareem on something and he talked about anarcho-unity. So I started watching Kareem and then I saw this and that. And that's how the hell I even got here. And because we have to have unity. We have to freaking tell the state to go the fuck away. And yeah, so I'm an agorist and I just want people to barter and trade and do the thing. And the party was a good thing for that until it didn't become that thing. And I can't say that Mises Caucus screwed it all up, but they're the latest thing that screwed it all up. It was just supposed to be a soapbox to spread the message of what we are doing here in my community. But okay, that was my introduction. Got a little weird.
Well, it's a good introduction because all right, we'll get started in an Alcoholics Anonymous style. Hi, I'm Jeremiah. I'm an anarchist. I got involved with the Libertarian Party because of my mother, who got me hooked on that at a very young age. And the death spiral has only ever gotten deeper. And I became anarchist not too long into that because I watched police brutality and war footage and found out that I really couldn't support any of that shit. And anarchy was it. Anarchy was the only option at that point. How did you become broken on the inside, John?
To be honest, it's been a while, so I don't really remember. I think I was basically non-political, and then I started reading more, I think, general philosophy, started reading Machiavelli, as well as looking into a certain Catholic philosophy, political philosophy, specifically G.K. Chesterton and his distributism. After that, I believe I started looking into libertarianism, I think because of either Vermin Supreme or John McAfee. And then afterwards, you connect the distributist aspect with the libertarian aspect, found out about Proudhon's mutualism, and the rest was basically history. I've then progressed from what would be a mutualist to probably somewhere leaning to a socialist anarchist at this point. And as another part of it, also during that, I had my gay awakening. So there was another part where where it connects with sort of queerness and how I connect my anarchism in parts to defense of queerness and defense of gay rights, trans rights, and the like. And now I'm just here being, I can't say that because that is technically a slur, but I'm just here being a gay little anarchist on the internet and talking about shit and trying to do what I can.
All right, Kareem or Joe, whichever one of you wants to go first. You'll fight for it.
I'm an ANCAP man. An ANCAP.
No,
not
Go,
you.
Kareem.
All right, so
Okay.
I'm Kareem. That's actually kind of cool. Dana found me, jumped on here. So I'm Kareem from Anarch-Unity. That's what I'm all about. That's what I want to do. Also, check out Keith Preston's website, Attack the System. Really, really good stuff. I also recommend, if you're an ANCAP, check out some of Noam Chomsky's videos. If you're an ANCOM, check out some of Ron Paul.
Right.
That's how you learn stuff.
How did you get here?
How did I get here is join Mises, because I wanted the Jorgensen campaign to have done better, but it didn't. I was tired of Jorgensen and Gary Johnson. I thought, like, okay, they're good people, they're friendly, but they're not like really aggressive. Like, I do like people who are like, bash the fash, smash the state, but they're not saying that. They're like, well, tax code ain't too good. So, and I did like Joe Jorgensen and Spike, but I joined Mises. While I joined Mises, one of my friends, Mark Bizzacco, said, hey, I have to go do something, but this guy really wants me on his podcast. And he's like, well, Kareem, you've been helping me out with the chair run and everything. You take the podcast. I said, who's the guy that you want me to talk to? He said, his name is Daniel Betro. He really wants to understand something. I said, well, Daniel, let me talk to him. And I talked to him about the fact that a lot of people were making the mistaking claim that saying, oh, they're private businesses, so they can do what they want. And I said, most businesses, including myself, have an LLC or some kind of government entrenchment, or get some money or influence, or being threatened by the government. So this is not an organic free market response to a potential illness. He's like, wow, I never heard a libertarian explain it like that. I said, yeah, would you like to join Mises? He said, no. Then he came back and said, I want to do podcasts with you. I like to do it. So me and Daniel Betro were doing podcasts for a while. Then Reno comes up. And I see Ron Paul. Then everybody's talking about this Michael Malice guy. I said, well, I don't want to buy his book quite yet. But you say there's tons of anarchists, and I'm only interested in the Rothbardian guy. But we'll look through. And I said, okay, this is interesting, but these are just quotes. Like, I said, like, but there's some good ideas here, but I want to hear from the people. And I said, Daniel, you go get Republicans on, you go get this on, and go get leftists on. He makes a post in Mises, and Jeremiah came on. Now, I had a different perspective back then. I'm like, the Groypers are cool, man. Nick Fuentes is funny. Didn't he make Dan Crenshaw like all scared? That's cool. And then I didn't realize like some of the real bad stuff. But they're talking about like, oh, Jeremiah was talking about like left-wing anarchy, and this dude's a fascist. I'm like, oh, wait, what's he talking about? But then I started having Jeremiah on with my friend Harry Wells, more and more. And so I met Jeremiah. Then, funny enough, coincidentally, at the same time, Keith Knight posts an article about Antifa. I said Antifa should get a life and stop LARPing. Then this dude, I'm not going to name, but he mentions like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you talking like that? And I'm like, that's just kind of how I feel. He said, do you want to be part of this Anarchy Unity server called Mad Liberty Project? I said, yeah. Joined. Eventually, I talked to one of the original members, Comrade Brett. Got Jeremiah back there, so that's good. And I'm still on the anarchy train with Keith Preston, Brett, Comrade Brett, Jeremiah, all that stuff. That brings me to where I'm at now. Not happy with what the Mises Caucus did. Not happy with what the previous guys did. But then I realized, hey, instead of talking theory, I want to build something. Appalachia's making it work without the party. Hey, they have a mutual aid network. So is Cooperation Tulsa. So is Cooperation Denton. So are the Zapatistas. So is Rojava. So is Anarchy in Greece. I don't know too much about them, though. But I'm like, man, okay. And then I was talking to Zachary Marlowe most recently, and he said, look, we can figure out stuff like there are tribes in Africa that just go off of a voucher system. They don't actually use money. So that's kind of what brought me here to talk theory today.
Joe.
So, peace is what brought me to anarchy. Reason why is because as long as we have resentful rulers trying to pull the Malthusian cloth over our eyes and commit war crimes around the globe with their depopulation agenda, we're always going to be in the target. Someone's always going to have something pointed at our back getting ready to take us out so that they can have everything that's left after somebody else has been done creating it. So this comes around to me, from the left perspective, because I've seen people willing to destroy ecosystems, willing to destroy entire cultures in order to get their own little piece of what's left. We see it. We saw it during World War II, World War I. We watched it go on with the Bush Wars. I did 3 tours in Afghanistan. I did a tour in Iraq. I was in the Philippines on the island of Mindanao watching Al-Qaeda terrorists interact with the population there, watched, the conflicts go on and on and on, and they're not stopping. We have a foreign policy right now that is bent on the destruction of the globe, systematically rolling the empire over everybody who stands in our way, in a winner takes all end state, except they can't figure out what the end state's supposed to look like, and they can't figure out how to be the winner of the winner takes all in this situation, because we are still here. They still need us to take care of the things they want to keep. Only they don't want us as free men or women. They want us as slaves. And that, to me, is unacceptable. And it's why I want to see more people recognize that anarchy, down with the archons. We don't need rulers in order to see order persist in the world and allow us all to succeed in our own right, in our own way. We don't care about equality of input or equality of opportunity, because we all have our own needs. We all have our own wants. So throw out this egalitarian bullshit and just give everybody the opportunity to be the people they want to be. And that's how we create this environment that accepts diversity, accepts the ultimate survival trait requirement for humanity. That is the adaptability to be anywhere, do anything, create the things that we want to see done, reshape the planet, not in our own image, but in a way that is compatible with all life forms. Be the steward rather than the commander. Do the facilitation as opposed to the terraforming. We need more responsible leadership, fewer resentful leaders, and that's how we move forward.
So
and that's why I'm here more than anything else these days.
So before we get going, we got Archie in comments. He wants to know what your views on Fuentes and the Groypers are today, Cream.
I hate him. First of all, and I'll even ask Joe. Nick Fuentes is Nick Fuentes is not a good leader. He's an unjust. I would say his leadership is part of an unjustified hierarchy, which I really thought about it. Like, right, libertarians are like, don't violate the NAP. I'm like, okay, but you let all these idiots in unjustified hierarchies, and you support them, including Nick Fuentes, Javier Milei, all these stupid, copter cucks. So to me, I hate the guys. I don't want anything to do with them. I've actually gone pretty far left towards. I still like pan-anarchism, so I still like ANCAPs, agrists, all that stuff. But if I had to pick, I've gone closer to syndicalism now. So he sucks. He sucks. That doesn't mean that I don't. If someone makes a good argument, fine. And I understand that he's like, okay, Trump will go to war with Iran. Yeah, fine. Like, is that accurate? It's accurate, but he's not a good person at all.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
It's fun that you said Javier Milei, because somebody just got, like, just now at fucking 6:38 p.m. my time. They popped off in my mentions about the debate on Jacob Winograd's channel saying, shut you fuck up. You can't speak of my president. So And they misspelled president. They didn't include like E, so it's more like shut you fuck up. You spelled like you can't with no apostrophe speak of my president. So
Person.
I all I did is I quote tweeted the guy and said those are words. Anyway,
spelling and reading and comprehension is hard for some of these folk.
Yeah, they're really
they didn't get on it.
Yeah. So actually, let's start.
More president.
Yeah, right. Let's start on this level, and we'll start with you, Dana. The general thing is that there are issues with libertarian messaging. Like 1 minute each. Give your biggest pet peeve each in libertarian messaging. We'll start with Dana. Go to John, Joseph, Kareem.
Okay, so I will give the Mises their due. During COVID, messaging really sucked. If you were going for the national level, on a state and county level, we did pretty badass. Like the state of Michigan did different things, and mainly the counties did things. Like my county, we went down to Lansing for the gridlock and did all kinds of shit. We gridlocked fucking Lansing with the Republicans. Didn't like them, but we were there. But anyway, the new messaging, there's no fucking way any of this even thinks about being libertarian. David Nolan is like rolling in his fucking grave, and this is crazy shit. So our new messaging is all shit. There's no other way to put it. Pure shit. Like, we are pro RFK, we are pro Trump, we are pro droning people and bombing people. And if you like this war, that's cool. We like this war. You know, I mean, yeah, our messaging sucks ass right now. And that was.
Well, you know, I think that's a perfect opportunity for you to start writing the diss track and say Nolan is rolling. John.
I would say, at least with more recent messaging, there is an issue where it's trying to be anti-establishment without necessarily being radically libertarian. The main focus is more being to cause a spectacle, or to at least, I would say, try to gain pragmatic positions of power, like in regards to trying to make deals with Trump and whatnot. That's more of a pragmatic that, generally speaking, is not good strategy or good. If you are to take a pragmatic strategy, it's not good strategy, because you're giving the power to these folks instead of actually leveraging the power that you can have. So the issue is, in a sense, that it's not truly radically libertarian. It's simply a kind of contrarian anti-establishment message that, in the end, is not really going to focus on what people need or on improving people's needs in the long run, as it is more just to get attention.
So your gist is that you think that they're playing a short game when they're, you know, getting their attention, and they feel like they're doing something because they're getting interacted with, but they need to focus less on their like impressions online and more like the general long-term impression that they're giving people.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
I would say that sounds about right.
Yeah. And Dana is concerned with like the slow sellout to the authoritarian parties, and like the sort of more grifty element that the Libertarian Party has lost its libertarianism by doing, but like not just the Libertarian Party, libertarians in general. So, because like this is going to be a theory stream, so we'll talk about libertarians in general, but like it's not just party members that have these issues. Joe.
Yeah, so one of the problems that we look at with the messaging is for too long, the libertarian messaging has been me. You know, liberty for me, and then you got the Kaufmans. Liberty for me, fuck thee. You got a significant number of individuals that have always been about me, fuck you. I don't care about your liberty. It's all about my liberty. It's about what I want to do. And if I want to punch you, yes, I can do that, and you can't respond, because punching me back would be a violation of the NAP. And there are literally people in the Libertarian Party that believe that for some reason. You know, now, what the real libertarian is about responsibility for self. You know, you talk about Locke, you talk about responsibility for the liberties of others. You know, you got to be aware of what it is, how you impact the liberty of others, how others impact your liberties, and recognize the need that you are each responsible for everybody's liberties. Otherwise, you just end up with a bunch of warlords in charge of things. And then we're back to where we are right now. You know, warlords blowing the holy living hell out of everything. And this comes back to, again, the vision where I see the difference between the resentfuls versus the responsible. And you got the Kaufmans who come off as resentful. You know, Fuentes. You know, an awful lot of them, they come off. You hear the hate in their voice. You hear their disturbed messaging. You hear the idea that they believe, honestly, that they are morally superior, physically superior, or culturally superior in every way, but all you hear is their hate. You know, from a Christian perspective, which I'm not, by the way, you look at that and you go, how can you preach that? You know, when you watch Jesus talk about the Samaritan, you know, when you saw the Sermon on the Mount and the responsibility to take care of other people, you know, preserve their liberties, preserve their rights, you know, to feed themselves, to take care of themselves, to house themselves. Not that we have a responsibility to do that for them, but we need to create the opportunity where they can do that for themselves. And that's where we get into the problem with the leftists saying everybody deserves it. Well, they deserve the opportunity to create it for themselves. They don't deserve the free labor of others in order to achieve it. And finding that balance between, you know, being a responsible, where you facilitate that community, where you facilitate the mutual aid, the exchange of service, whether that's being social, whether it's being financial or emotional. How do we build those other forms of capital that don't involve cash in that immediate trade? So we need to get away from the resentful messaging and focus more on responsible.
Makes sense. So, before we move on, your primary message tonight, and I'm doing this to establish a baseline and see where to bounce things off from. So your general thing is that you want people to be more responsible and communal, so that it seems like the Libertarian Party has something for other people rather than just like an excuse to say what you didn't get for yourself.
Well, a lot of that is simply being responsible for yourself. You know, accepting that you are where you are because decisions, choices you make in relationship to the rest of the world. You start by being responsible for yourself, and eventually you see that that thought process leads to leadership because you're no longer being resentful. You're no longer demanding to be the boss or to be one of those empty mouths, you know, useless eaters. You're part of a community responsible for yourself. And by extension, having been responsible for yourself, you tell other people to be responsible for themselves.
Gotcha. And Kareem, 1 minute. What's your general pet peeve? You can go a little over if needed, because I think pretty much everybody has. But what's your biggest pet peeve with libertarianism? Like not just the party, but like in general, the approach people give.
I would say there's a few of them, but I would say it's libertarians supporting their status counterparts. So now, if someone has I'll make some small exceptions. If somebody has a good quote, if somebody pointed something out, if someone made a good observation, like fine. You know, I'm not gonna like crucify everybody for everything, because that would be, you know, I don't go super, you know, strict on it. Like Keith, if he shared, like if Haz Al-Din says something, Keith shares it, or Jackson Henkel even says something like about what's going on in the Middle East and it's accurate, and Keith shares it, like fine, like okay. But what I don't like is, and someone says like, okay, like I said, like Ho Chi Minh had some good quotes, like, hey, we should talk to the working people, go over 4 or 5 times, really memorize it, as opposed to like candidates now who just fake accents. I'm like, no, learn how to actually talk to working class people, learn how to talk to them over and over, make it a skill. And I thought that was a good quote. That being said, people who are simping, like, oh my God, Javier Milei saving the world, or, you know, on the left, that people will simp for Maduro, which somebody said I like them, even though I said, like, look, I don't think we should get involved. But no, Maduro's not good. Venezuela's not Disneyland. Simping for, you know, tanky people is not a good idea either. I'm not a fan of that. You know, there's some people, like Salvador Allende had some good quotes. Also, you know, people like, oh, you know, the Pinochet garbage. I'm like, shut up with that. There's nothing good about Pinochet. He was basically a U.S. stooge, and he's basically, as far as I'm concerned, just a plant. And so is, to me, Javier Milei. Same thing. On the left side of the aisle, there's people who think that, you know, the CCP and the BRICS countries and Putin, you know, and, you know, a few people like, you know, Daniel McAdams, which Daniel has a lot of good takes. But then he's like, well, Viktor Orban and Putin are, you know, just swell dudes. I'm like, no, they're not. Like, even simping for Assad, not really a big fan of that. Because in a lot of these countries, if you say the wrong thing, you're gone. Now, are they terrorizing the world as much as America? No. Just because American imperialism is bad, and NATO imperialism is bad, and Israeli imperialism is bad, does not mean that when that ends, because it will, that other country, you know, tanky or imperialism is good. Doing rah, rah, rah for statism eventually will come back to you. Somebody will oppress you. Somebody will send a tank after you. Somebody will, or if they don't, somebody will soft ban you. Somebody will use hate speech laws against you. Somebody will, even if it's something, you know, like Trudeau, big fan of, let's see, and then someone will block your bank account access. Better have some crypto. So, or gold or something. So it will come back to you when you go rah, rah, rah for the other side. That doesn't mean you can't learn anything from any authoritarian, but I would limit it to like, hey, what can you use this for personal utility? That's my pet peeve, is people go way too far to support their left and right counterparts or authoritarians who don't care for you. And that even goes to the small things where some people are like, well, you know, even stuff that seems harmless, like the Mises Caucus, like, oh, Blake Masters is awesome. You got to support Blake. Or you got to support these Republican candidates because they're liberty Republicans, so kick the real libertarians out. Mises was doing that. And then on the left side, we have people who are like Bernie Sanders, AOC. I'm like, Bernie Sanders and AOC are some of the fakest people I've met, along with Elizabeth Warren. To me, these people are just like, yeah, I'm a working class person. And I'm like, really? Really? The millionaires and the billionaires. Bernie, what's your net worth? How many houses you got, Mr. Democratic Socialist? Oh, okay. AOC, how are you doing? Oh, a little bit better. Oh, you just got that money from being a congressman, even though that's a crappy thing to do in the first place. So that's, if we can get over that, I think we'll be good. I know it's over a minute, but, you know, that's my pet peeve.
So what is the central theme? Just like being closer to principle instead of like finding the easy way out for like fun and profit?
Yeah, well, what I would say is this. Like, I was watching Comrade Garrett, and he said, you know, before I used to think that left unity was a good idea, and if you study the Spanish War, it's confusing because there's so many factions. But there's this dude and Joshua Smith. They were accusing me. I said I like the CNTFAI. It seems reasonable. I said, do you agree with imprisoning nuns in camps? And I'm like, all right, let me actually do some digging. Did a lot of digging. Found a good leftist channel. This trans YouTuber explains it. She's very good, or he, or whatever it is. And they were explaining, look, the UGT, the Marxist faction of the Popular Front, did that, not the anarchist version. Anarchists really aren't going to put you in a camp because that's not what we do. But you see how the left unity worked there. The Marxists screwed them up, and Francisco Franco screwed everybody else over. And they had no tanks and no way to defend themselves. So I think left unity is a bad idea. I think and I'm not a fan of Vivek going to the, even though people didn't see that, I did. Ben Heckman was there. I'm not a fan of Vivek saying we want a libertarian nationalist alliance, because I know what they're going to do. They're doing it now. They're going to use libertarians' talking points, and then they're going to say, oh, I'm a libertarian, to get popular support. And then they're going to go off and do statist shit and be like, well, we're kind of libertarian. We put taxes down like 5%. Like, come on. Other than that, we're going to oppress everybody. But hey. So I would say drop those left alliances, drop those nationalist alliances. And the best thing to do is anarchists, anti-state radicals to work together, because we don't always agree, but we do agree on decentralization, voluntary interaction, and I think overall spontaneous order, letting things happen as opposed to forcing it.
So your theme would be don't hijack, like the central pet peeve is don't hijack libertarian ends to justify an anti-libertarian perspective.
Correct. And I'll even postulate with this. I'm not a fan of Nick Gillespie. I've talked to him maybe a total of 3 times. He does hit pieces randomly. He is very all over the place. But it was interesting. He asked Trump, hey, Trump, how you doing? And he was like, hey, Nick. And then he's like, Trump, you're going to pardon Ross Ulbricht, right? And he's like, yeah. It wasn't so convincing when he does it off camera. I'm like, you can find the video too. It's reason. Nick Gillespie, I don't know what you think of Nick Gillespie. Probably not positive, I'd imagine. But he asked Trump, you're going to free Ross. And it was not very enthusiastic when Nick asked it. He's like, you're end the drug war? You going to do any other stuff? Are you going to free Ross? He's like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. Then he gets on Truth and, I'll free Ross Ulbricht. I got you guys. Like, oh, boy. It just...
Well, and so I guess I'll then start in on sort of, because people know my perspective generally. But to respond to that, the latest thing, one of the things that I've been arguing with somebody on, and I'm not going to say who it is, but let's just say that he has been somewhat outspoken in defense of the recent rallies run by Angela McArdle. And one of the things that's been happening lately is that a lot of libertarians have been saying that freeing Ross is a good trade for supporting Trump. And I'm like, look, I'm not against freeing Ross. I'm not against helping him get out of jail, giving him a pardon, whatever you want. But if we're going to say that it's worth it to support Trump, then we have to look at the rest of what Trump wants. For anybody who's watched this channel for a significant period of time and saw that we went over the Project 2025 stuff, you know what this man wants. And for anybody who's like, ew, it's not his project, he doesn't want that, he has nothing to do with that. Look at Agenda 47, it's his project, he supports that same shit. It's like a mirror image of it, just rephrased, and being like, no, you know what, I actually do support these things. I'm just going to support them on my website and my presentation. And then I'll say that I don't support Project 2025. Oh no, I'll just support the things that are in it and then say that it's not that anymore. When you get Trump on board, that was more of a Mr. Smithers, but they're basically the same person. The general thing when you get Trump is you get more than just freeing Ross. You also get all the people he wants to cage. And when you get those people that he wants to cage, you're talking migrants, you're talking LGBT people who receive gender affirming care, you're talking about women who receive reproductive health care, you're talking about homeless people who he also wants to round up and put in camps. And these are internment camps he wants, and those are just the beginning. You know, normal American citizens and people who are here legally could be put in these camps. It's not just migrants. It's people who the government can classify as an enemy. That's literally what he's talking about in re-upping this act. And so,
Yeah.
Generally, the thing that I could say is it worth it to do this thing like for Ross? Yeah, it is. Ross Ulbricht should not see another minute in jail, prison, whatever. And the war on drugs and weapons should be ended. But at the same time, he's not going to end the wars on drugs or guns or any of the stuff that Ross Ulbricht helped people get access to. So he's still going to be caging people like Ross. And then while he does that, he's going to be caging a shit ton more people and using the force of government in ways that have never been before seen. And people are celebrating him as a libertarian.
But Jeremiah, the point of this is Ross Ulbricht as a symbol of freedom and the free press.
Yep.
That one individual is worth the million addicts and homeless people and illegal immigrants. You know, fuck those million people. It's about the one.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta, and see, that's the thing. A lot of these people are conservatives who use the term, my prime thing, I guess it would be my pet peeve, is hypocrisy and inconsistency. Because these motherfuckers, for fucking years, whined about virtue signaling. Whined about SJWs making their fucking molehill into a mountain. And, like, making everything about them and their special persecution. And now, these same motherfuckers are talking about, like, oh yeah, we hated identity politics forever, but now if you're brown, we don't want you here. Now if you're LGBT, you need to be physically removed. You know, or in the case of Michael Rechtenwald saying that Judaism needs to be physically removed, which was the pretext for all Nazi action. That was the Nazis who said, like, if you're Jewish or of Jewish influence, you're part of the degenerative culture, you're part of the Untermensch, and we must purge you. That's going to get taken out of context, but I don't care. Like, the Nazis were saying that. And now we've got somebody who claimed to be a libertarian supporting that. And you can see the writing on the wall with people like this, because Lori Price, his fucking campaign manager, was a massive Putin simp and a massive Trumpist. And he supported her rag that he helped start, which is legitgov.org. And you go on there, you see that Putin's liberating Ukraine. You see that Trump is unjustly attacked whenever he's attacked. You see nothing but right-wing messaging in that regard. And then, you know, the wokes are winning, and that's so terrible. And this is what you get. You get people who are still the same kind of SJW, but more like SIW, social injustice warriors. They're trying to swing the opposite direction and fuck the minorities.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about all of that as well is, simply put, even there's the thing about how, like, the Libertarian Party is the third largest party. That sort of does a lot. That thing of third largest party does a lot of legwork compared to the general populace. It's a tiny population. And very simply put, when they try to make these supposed deals with Trump or with, like, these more conservative politicians, who exactly has more power in that situation? If you can pressure a politician so that they will give into your demands, go for it. That's a good thing of activism, and it's very good. It's very good on the local level because you can organize people locally into a large voting bloc that has a big impact on those local elections. It's not as hard. We're talking about a national election dealing with a couple million people, and probably a lot more than that, like a few 100 million people. The Libertarian Party makes up about what, 1 million people, we say? That is a very small minority compared to the general population.
It's average.
Yeah.
It's an average minority. It's an average size minority. This doesn't normally happen. Go ahead. Sorry.
The thing is, when you have political parties trying to make deals, the only way that you can be sure that the other person, especially a politician, will do what you ask of them is that if they fear you and you have the power to back up that fear, whether as a big enough voting bloc or whether as able to cause enough of a stir, enough of a ruckus, enough of a controversy against that presidential candidate.
So what you're saying is, in the words of the Wu-Tang Clan, we've got to bring the ruckus.
You have to bring the ruckus. Granted, the Libertarian Party has been bringing the ruckus. The problem is they've been bringing the ruckus against themselves. In general, and I guess I said earlier, I want to bring this up. They don't know the Alinsky rules, and they don't know how to adequately use the Alinsky rules. They don't. It's a thing where they think that a politician, and it's a double, and it's a weird inconsistency. A party that is primarily critical of the government and of politicians for, being slimy, backstabbing, making backroom deals, being dishonest, all of that, goes on to trust the word of one of the most slimiest people known in American culture. Not just politics, American culture, Mr. The Apprentice, Mr. Frickin', what did he say? He can shoot a guy in the middle of the street, nothing can happen to him. Yeah, well, yes, Trump. You're trying to deal with this dude who is not known for being a trustworthy person. And you're expecting him to keep his word that he will, give a libertarian in the cabinet? Which even in that, how exactly is that going? What exactly is that going to do per se? It could do some big changes, but then of course it depends on what are the changes being implemented that are important. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. I'll let someone else take over.
Dana, you got words?
It's called prostitution. That's the only way to say it. And donors aren't getting asked if they consent to the prostitution, because usually we would call our own prostitute, but instead now the prostitute is being forced upon us, so it's violated the NAP. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, there's no way. I mean, a libertarian cabinet position. No, you got to go through congressional oversight and whatnot. They're not even get their happy people in there. I mean, it's going to be whoever's already there. Mike Lee or whatever the fuck he calls libertarian. Trump doesn't know what a fucking libertarian is. He's a blue dog Democrat from fucking New York that all of a sudden became a freaking Republican. And anyway, yeah, so we're not getting that. And Ross Ulbricht has been in jail for, what has it been, 13 years now?
About.
I do believe that Trump was in for 4 of those 13 fucking years. And somehow, magically, he didn't know how to fucking free Ross Ulbricht. And oh, wait, did I hear him that one day when he said that he was going to want to execute all drug dealers? Yeah, and Ross is in jail for being a drug dealer because of the website. That's what he's in jail for.
Right.
Federal drug crimes. Not creating a website crimes, drug crimes. That is what he's in jail for. So, yeah, anything Angela's done has been prostitution to the nth degree. She didn't even get a reach around or any of the other things that happen when you usually are a prostitute. She just gave away the party, and she's doing it just like they always do. And we weren't supposed to talk about the party, but here we are. They're doing it on the state level, on the national level. They don't give a fuck about the members or nothing. They're doing whatever the fuck they're going to do, and we're going to pick up the pieces if we care to. But I'm not sure if I care to anymore. Like, if we lose ballot access here in Michigan, I am not knocking on any freaking doors, dude.
Yep.
I'm not getting those 4,600 signatures that are required. No.
Because you already did that.
In 1972, the year I was born. I am not fighting to recreate it because you bitches killed it. Like, I just went to a meeting at my state today that I'm not allowed to be part of, but I was there. Like, it's crazy. So that's why we shouldn't talk about that. We should talk about the seeds of liberty that we planted and what we're doing. And,
that's the thing. Like, I wanted to discuss pet peeves because in order to know how to garden, you have to know what's going to kill the garden. So what we've got so far is, like, basically opportunism, selfishness at the expense of, like, growing your community, inconsistencies and hypocrisies, selling out, you know, trying to use it as a platform for you rather than a platform for liberty. So now we generally know what to avoid. So the primary thing is, I'm going to ask every one of you, historically, in your time, what have you done that has been the most effective way to start somebody on a journey to liberty? Beyond, like, just fucking, like, getting them involved in some sort of party thing, which I don't do that. I'm talking more like philosophically. How do you start to get somebody broken away from that? And what did you do that was the most effective, the most reliably? We'll start with John, we'll go Dana, Joe, and then Kareem.
In all honesty, I'm not entirely sure I can say too much on it. I'm a good amount younger than most of you here, so I haven't fully had too much experience in regards to convincing people towards libertarianism. At most, it's been one-on-one conversations, and I don't think I could say I've made any converts per se. At most, I just have an open discussion. I explain to them what libertarianism is if they're interested, and I try to have, at least for the most part, friendly discussions with them. And give it time, it will definitely help them come to it, but it's definitely a bit more slow, and probably, again, I still have a lot to learn compared to y'all, so I'll let y'all speak.
All right, Dana, what has been your most effective tactic in terms of quality and, we'll say, quantity, trying to reach that medium? Because, like getting a whole bunch of people on board, but they're shallow and then they turn out to be shit isn't, I think, what any of us want. So, like real deep root shit here. Like, what's the best, like, sort of way to intersect those of quality and quantity, like the optimal tactic that you've used?
Well, first of all, you convince them that party politics is never going to solve the problem. That's your first step. Very first step. And then you create beautiful little anarchists. And I'm going to introduce you to the girl next to me soon. This is one of those that I met when she was just a little bit. And I grew her into an anarchist. She was part of the taxation of theft that's on my garage that, like, any of you on Facebook have seen. Anybody who comes and drops off signs in my house is like, holy shit, have you ever seen Dana's garage? Yeah. I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere, but even the tax dude's got to see it. And I had, like, I don't know if you guys were like, 15 when they put that bitch on there. And that's what we create. And we don't just start with children, but we embed that into their minds. Like, anytime somebody comes over here going, oh, well, Kamala, oh, well, Trump, oh, well, Clinton, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. They all fucking suck. And that's what I tell them. They suck. And we don't really care about that here. And then we just create. That's what I'm saying. I've told you guys stories of how all kinds of shit happens in our little community, and I could go on for days on this. But if you want to hear a seed that was planted at a young age, this little bitch is one of those seeds. Like, she doesn't care about either side. She thinks they both suck. Let her explain it. My bad. This is Josie.
So I've heard from both sides, and just not only from Dana's influence from childhood, but just as even just an adult. Like in 2020, I didn't even vote because I just didn't care. I mean, I hoped that, because I'm less Republican, but I was, I didn't vote. I didn't vote for either because I knew that both of them suck. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to vote for either this year either because they both suck. But I learned from a young age that, neither of them mattered, and I should be able to do whatever the hell I want within reason, no violence towards other people, and no wars.
So,
but
you would say that the thing that worked with you was basically that people got to you before the state could get in their hooks.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of people my age who are either extremely Republican or extremely Democrat, and it's just, I never ever get into conversations about it just because they all know that I don't want to talk about it because they all know my answer.
Yeah.
But how many people have you told to vote Chase this year?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people my age too, because a lot of them also agree with the no violence, no wars. I get to, have land of my own, and I get to protect the land that I have.
Yeah, she's a big Chase supporter. She likes him.
I do.
Yeah. Hey, get out there. There's a lot of people who actually want liberty. And especially on the right, I think it's funny. They're like, oh, he won't steal votes from, he'll just steal votes from the left. All right, we'll steal votes from both. I guarantee you. Give me a little bit of time. I'm going to ramp up the videos. I'll steal some votes.
And so we'll go Joe and then Kareem. What has been your most effective strategy for getting people on board?
A lot of it's about awareness and what goes on with things. Telling people, that the United States government just stole $1 million to blow up some family in a $2 tent in the middle of the desert somewhere. Where's the fairness in that? Where's the justice? Talking about bringing our troops home because of the amount, we stole money from the United States Postal Service, in order to pay for 3 years of war under Bush, and kick the can down the road. Now we're in this situation where, under Trump, he printed off $2 trillion in order to cover losses because we were spending too much money in the war, or the wars, depending upon how you want to look at it. So why are we supporting U.S. troops in, 180 countries right now out of 210? Why do we have troops in so many places? Why are we supporting the exploitation of people around the world? Why are we stealing from you to make that happen? What are you getting out of it? You don't have a job right now because the possible jobs you could have had have now been exported to foreign countries where they're being exploited for slave labor to do the job that you could be getting paid fairly well here in the United States to do.
Hey,
so we talk about that level of fairness.
They're not just getting exploited in the third world. They're also stealing our labor and copying it to make AI. Then they can just fire us and they won't have to replace us with anything. Go ahead.
Well, they're going to have to replace us with somebody who can train AI to do this stuff until AI can train itself. And then we got Skynet.
Yeah.
But, the thing is then you step back and you take a look at, the war at home, the war on drugs, which is a war on people because it's a war on class. It's a war on poverty. It's a war on, because every excuse, I'm homeless. I'm not a drug user. I got a job. I work 40 to 50 hours a week. I pay my bills, yet here I am just because my class is homeless, and the United States government is grafting, so much of my wages because of garnishments for this or that or the other, or the debts I wasn't able to pay during 2 years of my COVID enforced vacation, what is it they call that? The whole, take your vacation, Anyway, I can't get back into housing. I can't get back into work, or I work. I'm paying bills. But because I'm classified as homeless, we have done such a disservice to people who are in various situations because we've phrased it in such a way, oh, he's homeless. That means he's a drug addict. He's homeless. That means he doesn't take care of himself. He's homeless, and it's like we are consistently threatening the lives of people and preventing their their ability to recover. And we talk about that and say, look, how close are you to being homeless? And we got some people who are hard asses and say, I will never be homeless. Bullshit, motherfucker. There's a reason why so many vets are homeless. There are reasons we are seeing more and more families. There are reasons we are seeing more and more teen homelessness. Pay attention to what's going on. You're being systematically eradicated for a reason. What can you do to take responsibility for your life in order to get out of the path of the machine that's coming our way? So you start looking at explaining about the problem with the wars away, and then explain about the war at home, the war against the people, the war against the republic. Because no matter what you talk about, you can talk about McCardle's fucking save the republic bullshit, because she's not interested in saving the republic. She's interested in saving the oligarchy. She's interested in saving,
She's interested in rescuing the Republicans.
Yeah, she's interested in rescuing the Republicans. She's interested in preserving the state. As a libertarian, it's like, what is your... The Republic was always about the people. You go back, you look at democracy, you look at, Sparta, you look at, all the Greek city-states that were republics. You look at the classical republics, the Middle Ages. You look at the places where the people were involved, where there was enlightenment, because the people were self-governing. And here you watch, trying to preserve this veneer, while at the same time suborning power, prostituting. She trafficked the party. I mean, she did. As much as she was prostituting herself, she trafficked the party in the process. We're all victims of her little human trafficking scheme. We talk about those wars and say, how you gain your own freedom is the important part. And part of gaining that freedom is developing responsibility for yourself and your fellow travelers. Anyway, I think I wandered off. The primary aspect of that is, the messaging needs to be about, you're not alone. Other people want this. And at the end of the day, you shouldn't be afraid, because what they're going to do, what you're afraid of somebody else is going to do to you, your government is already in the process of doing to you.
Yeah.
Find yourself first.
So your message to people is, like, instead of trying to find the best way to outreach to other people, primarily you should be worried about finding the best way to be yourself in a libertarian thing, like set the example.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You need to be your best self. Create that atmosphere so that you can attract people to you who see you being your best self. See you reaching out to others and helping others, because they come to you and they find the power of compassion. They find the power of leadership. They find the power of love. You know, the evolution, screw the revolution. It's about the evolution. You know, take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And that community, because that community is going to be who you need to rely on when everything hits the fan.
So,
You know,
Kareem, what is your best way to get the message out there? Like, and I'm talking like quality and quantity. You remember the intersection.
I would say the best way to get the message out there is to actually go and either find a place or find someone who's building a real system, not like just spouting theory. See, the problem is whether or not you like the Libertarian Party or not, one big problem they've had is it's a lot of theory. Like we come there, it's like, okay, quote Rothbard, quote Mises, quote Rothbard, quote me. What are you doing? Okay, we're doing a tour. We're still talking theory. It's all right. Fine. I want to build something. People don't really care about theory. People don't care if you have a bunch of books. People don't care if you know who Rothbard is. Most people don't care, unfortunately. That's what I found. I've knocked a lot of doors. What they care about is, do you have an alternative? Ah, okay. Well, I haven't seen a lot of people do that. But I have seen people actually come up with like different ways to do it. And that, how did I figure that out? I looked at like who are the anarchists who are doing it. Those are left-wing anarchists. You can go on X right now when you're done being like, you know, seeing Michael Rechtenwald lose it. I think Michael Rechtenwald is having like a gnome phase where he's just like, he's just saying dumb shit. So, but if you stop for a second, there's things to take a look at, like Cooperation Tulsa, Cooperation Denton, co-ops that are working. These are co-ops that are getting started. There's stuff that is working, like the Zapatistas. You can see them. You can see Rojava. You can see, like, you know, what Bookchin and all them talking about. Moneyless society. That's why I'm trying to get Zachary Marlowe in your server and stuff like that. And that's what I suggest people do is it doesn't matter if you vote, build something. If you build something, someone, or you make a community, or you get something started, people can say, oh, there's Thing be working. Podcasts are great too. And even voting, and I would say this, podcasts are cool, but then you want to do the personal stuff, obviously, get in shape, because if you're not in shape, you're feeling like crap, you're not going to do anything. So get in shape, filter your water, grow a small garden, you know, do all that stuff, you know, slowly get rid of your lawn. But then just
real quick, like, as soon as you started to say that that's cool, you know, podcasts are cool, the first thing in my brain was just the Death Grip lyrics, like, responsibility's cool, but there's more things in life, like getting your dick rode all fucking night. Fucking anyway, fucking go. Yeah, I had to.
That'll get some traction to anarchy. Be like, here, you know what?
Death Grip's anarchy, just like anarchy is just like there's a thin layer of piss all over the floor. You know, that's Death Grip's concerts are like that. There's like, it's just it's a real Musk, not like the Elon Musk. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know who's a great messenger for liberty that I found out?
You're gonna say G.G. Allen.
No. Well, I mean, I like G.G. Allen. But no, it was just, I don't remember his name, but it was like this real fat dude from Nevada who owned a brothel, and he got all these chicks, and he's like pimping for Paul, because Ron Paul agreed with prostitution, so he was like pimping for Paul. You know what? Like that could work. Like, hey man, you know, I threw this, you know, chick and I got a discount and I did this and all right. But really,
you know, I think the best messengers are the ones that I can't remember what their names are. Go ahead.
Yeah. But anyway, so I started to knock doors. I'm like, okay, you got to take action. You got to run for local office. And people, I knock their doors and they don't care about this. They're like, how do you fix this? How do you fix that?
Real quick, Thank you for coming on, Joe. There's probably going to be more of these during the week, so I will keep you appraised. But like, is there because you have to book? Is there anything you got to say before you book?
I'm just going to back up what Kareem says. Build something. You know, that's where it starts. Build something for yourself. Give yourself a place to be safe, and that creates safety for others. And that's how the network builds and how you create leaders rather than rulers, and how you create community rather than slave pens.
All right.
Love you guys. See you later.
Idaho Joe on Twitter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so Kareem, you can finish what you were going to say. I think you froze.
I was going to finish.
Okay, we go.
So here's how you actually. So I knocked doors. And a lot of people did not care about theory, did not care about Mises, did not care about Ron Paul. They don't even care about Democrat or Republican. They're like, how are you going to do all this stuff? How are you going to make thingies work? That's what average people care about. Do you have you say the system's bad? Okay. Everybody says that, you know, a lot of people pick up a guitar, they're like, fuck the system. Cool. I like the song by Exploited. Like, fuck the system.
Fucking like,
but, okay.
Like get up on stage like Lois Griffin, just say 9/11. Go ahead.
Yeah, literally. That's kind of what a lot of people do, with the Libertarian Party, except it's like Murray Rothbard said, Ron Paul said. But anyway, so I said, okay, well, knocking doors, people actually want a functional alternative. Where is that? So I said, I don't know how to really build that. How do you build that? Here's what I would suggest. Don't focus on Mises so much. If they come back around, that's cool. There are actual things like moneyless society. You can apply there. There's Cooperation Denton, Tulsa. There's your Anarchy House. I said people generally, and there's Mad Liberty. So what I would recommend people to do at the most basic level is get Discord, join in Mad Liberty server, work on the projects with Comrade Brett. That's a good start. Now, if you want a physical thing to do, there's go to Cooperation Denton and Tulsa, and I'm going to do this once I make some more money online. Fill out their Google thing, get accepted, go down, help them with their social ecology projects, but it's more than that. People make all the dumb jokes. Oh, all ANCOMs do are community gardens. Well, first of all, getting food to eat is kind of like, big thing, food security to resist the state. Your comic books and your theoretical stuff is not going to do much. Austrian economics is not going to feed you. So there's that. And then if you build a functional co-op, guess what? That co-op works with another co-op. That co-op works with another co-op. You get enough co-ops, and then you say, hey, we don't need the mayor. We don't need the governor. We don't need the federal government eventually, because we got co-ops and we got agris and free societies that we set up. All of a sudden, the state's gone. And that can be done. And that's what I would say is the best way to do it. I don't know about like quality versus quantity. I mean, I'd say like the quantity is putting out a lot of episodes and talking about it, putting out tons and tons of episodes. But I remember, back in 2016, 15, 14, when everybody's like, feminism's dead, feminism's dead, feminism's dead. We have defeated it. Shoe on Head has defeated feminism. And with Lauren Southern, I'm like, okay. And then Trump wins. And then in Pittsburgh, it was literally the largest demonstration I've seen of those hats, which I think are ridiculous. But I saw those hats, and I'm like, Feminism's dead in your online echo chamber. That's a lot of quantity. You kept putting it out. But in reality, it's not, because you didn't take physical action to show a viable alternative that's somewhere in between. Okay, I don't want to keep whammons in the kitchen, but I also don't want to, I don't think it's necessarily a great idea if you're having 50 abortions and being crazy and taking tons of birth control. What's a reasonable alternative that we can do in the real world? No one presented that. So guess what? Wasn't dead. But you can be in online echo chambers all day and be convinced everybody thinks what you think. When I told people taxation is theft, these are I'm in a Republican area. Told them taxation is theft. They freaked out. Told them, hey, you want to save money? The drug war is an easy way to save money. We just stopped that. They're like, oh my God, you want people to do meth? Don't you know drugs are bad? No, but you know.
No, the government wants people to do meth. They're giving it to kids. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ritalin. So that's my thing. Build a functional alternative like Bitcoin, like a community garden, like a co-op. Join a co-op. That's why I recommend people, if they want to get physically involved, join a co-op and do that.
Gotcha.
And that's what I plan on doing. And Man Liberty Project.
So,
if I can add on to that, I think generally Kareem's points are on the money.
Yeah.
The main thing is very simply organize. I'm sorry, I'm twisting my tongue. Finding that sort of thing, I think it's a thing of like not just getting in connected with these projects, because that's definitely a good thing, getting in connection with these kind of projects, with cooperatives, with the creation of community gardens, that kind of stuff, but also getting in contact with your neighbors, getting connected with your neighbors in a way so that you're not only just sharing social stuff, but that's a very important thing, but you're also able to share in regards to building of that kind of consciousness, building of that sort of political, like a political community, as well as like a social community, a politically active
organized. Oh, sorry.
And I think in regards to ways of doing that, the internet is thankfully able to give us a lot of information in regards to how to grow our own food, how to like create these certain things. Like there was this one video about like, sewing in the apocalypse. How can you do that? Like mending clothes in the apocalypse, quote unquote. That tells you like tools you can use to actually mend clothes by yourself without any fancy tools or mechanisms or anything like that. Yeah. And I think as well as that, not just like working with communities, but also trying to organize even within political parties, within those communities. I will show this out. I recommend, like, I don't know too much about personal experience, but I do know a good amount about theory. And I know, at least when it comes to theory of the theory of political organization or political action, you read Saul Alinsky, you read his Rules for Radicals, you read The Activist's Handbook by, what's his name? Randy Shaw. Both have experience organizing people, communicating with people, working with communities in order to best help their needs. You learn from them and then you put that into practice. It's going to be hard work, of course, but main thing is really just, like Kareem said, you connect with people, you talk with people, you work with people in these kind of community projects, but then you make sure to make those connections in a way that it's not just you're doing this one project. It's not just that you're talking with this one person. It's not a thing of fragments of moments. You have to wrap it all together into a way of living that is, in a sense, rebellious, by making your living choices and by making your connections with people in a way politically conscious, politically active. We're like, and I guess I'm repeating myself. You work with people, you find the ways which you can communicate with people. And again, and repeating myself again, you can look at books on activism to best find ways of communicating with people and making those organizations and organizing in a way that's going to be effective and is going to help people. You do projects like, community gardens. You do projects like what the Black Panthers did, the free breakfast for kids that they organized in their community. They didn't rely on the government or the state for that. They made sure that within their community, they all pitched in to help fund free breakfasts and lunches for young Black kids in impoverished neighborhoods. They were trying to organize and help their community. And then they connected it with their political praxis. They weren't just a random charity group. They made it so that their political practice against capitalism, against the state, against domination was tied in with their building of community, with their building of social networks, with their mutual aid, with their helping each other.
Yeah.
You have to bring that all together
Well,
in
and
order to create community and also to create movements, to create pockets of rebellion in that way.
yeah, and like, so I'm gonna pass it to Dana real quick here. But like, so one thing I want you to do is like, while other people speak for a bit, I want you to take like because you've got some actual texts here, so that might be helpful. But like, summarize, like, get maybe like 5 or 6 good sections of it, and you can read those sections and just make sure it's like, you know, under like 3 or 4 minutes of content, and then just like make those sections like stand out as good sections for like radical analysis and libertarian action. And then I'm going to throw it to Dana while you do that, and also Kareem. But before then, let me just... One of the big pet peeves, and I've got it in my mentions right now because I criticized some people's holy figure, Mike Rechtenwald. The general gist is Western civilization is a myth perpetuated by people who are not interested in being civilized. I cannot tell you how many times I've interacted with somebody who is in an extremely and exceedingly low position in their own personal life, and they have the audacity to compare themselves to the strong men that allegedly created the alleged good times. That's not you. You didn't do that. Strong men may have created good times for the strong men and the people who were willing to vassalize toward them. Maybe it's a better time to be a eunuch than be dead, but you still have to lose your balls to the invading army. Western civilization in and of itself is not even necessarily something to preserve, but most of the people who talk about it ain't fucking preserving it. And they're the kinds of people who, like, you know, they'll talk about, oh, women aren't attractive anymore. And they're like, you know, fat and balding, Chatterton. And they, like, have exactly 0 social skills, Kaufman. And they'll pretend that these things are the Western civilization that we must preserve. They're not. Western civilization is a fucking slave factory. It's a way for people to ignore their impact on the world while pretending that their impact is fucking awesome comparatively. But a whole lot of the process there has been warring with civilizations until they reverse in ages, more than a few times. Like, they complain about, you know, mud huts and sand, like, living facilities and, you know, fucking all this shit in Africa and the Middle East, but then they ignore the fact that routinely either them or their allies are bombing these people into oblivion. So, of course, like, maybe these people that have dealt with, like, this sort of thing for a long time, the pollution from megacorporations, the whatever, might be in a worse position to have alleged civilization. And it might be because your Western civilization has become a decaying, rotting, consumerist shit heap, and it's the eventual result of Western civilization, not some, like, accident that happened because we didn't Western hard enough. Western civilization is a myth. Western civilization is a myth. And anybody who talks about the traditionalism that they want is lying. And anybody who talks about the traditionalism that they want is lying to you. anyone who talks about the image of the past that they're trying to aggrandize is selling you a bill of goods. And when it comes down to it, a lot of these people are the reason that libertarianism fails, because they so consistently blame like everybody else's culture but their own for their rot. And then they're consistently some of the least culturally like enticing people on the planet. So that's my message. I'm going to pass it to Dana and then Kareem and then back to John once he finds his Rules for Radicals passages he's going to go over. But that was my general gist. Western civilization is a joke, and we are the punchline. This is what we have now because of Western civilization, and it's not because of the influx of degeneracy. It's because your people made it this way and made a shit ton of money. So shut the fuck up or give it back. Dana is, I'm assuming, trying to unmute.
Yeah, I thought I had my mouse hooked back up. I was like playing with my mouse. It wasn't even working. I guess I never hooked it back up when I moved back in this room.
I think you can just hit M, by the way.
Huh?
I think you can just hit M, by the way.
Say that one more time.
I think you can just hit M, by the way, to unmute.
Oh.
It's Control M.
Ah. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, that's like there's a mouse on both of the things, and I found it right on. Not even going to control him and whatnot. Anyway, for the record, for the YouTube algorithm, this is legal in my state. We don't play it. It's just herbs. They're hanging. Anyway, there was a lot to unpack between what you and Kareem said and even what John said. No, it's just the best way to start saying it. And I'm just going to toot my own horn, which is what I get accused of all the time by certain drunk people in our party.
Fucking, I hope she loses fucking whatever she has that's given her this.
And I mean, and I don't hope anyone gets sick, from their things. And I'm drinking tonight, so, I could do all kinds of shit and call it that. But anyway, we're over that. But no, like totally getting away from the party is the biggest thing. Because before I joined the Libertarian Party, I was going to save the Republican Party from within and blah, blah, blah. But we did things. We fought to win our county back. Like, they were trying to impose a lot of shit on us from the city part of the county. And we were like, no, we're not doing that. So we have no zoning. We have no dog catcher. We have none of that. Like, we are like an autonomous zone here. We're like what New Hampshire thinks it's going to one day be. But here in my area, we live it. So it's like, what more am I going to do? So the Mises came in. They're like, oh, we're going to decentralize. I was like, we've already done that. Now what? Now Mises is doing whatever the fuck it's doing. But which is craziness. We'll get into Michigan again later, but we've done all that. We've created that. And then we've created this community around that. And I keep saying the community, we've actually done it. We've created it. Like, we have a bunch of people in my zone that are like, yeah, fuck the government, fuck all that shit. They vote libertarian. We're like, when they can, like, we're the most libertarian area. And no matter, you could quote Rothbard, you could quote all the things, but your biggest things are like Spooner, Payne, more of the lefties. I mean, if you really want to say it, more of the lefties. It's people commuting together, doing what they have to do and making it right. And nothing that's going on within any of the libertarian circles is working. And we have to, God, I can't even explain it right now. It's just, it's so crazy. Like, there's, and anytime that you try to tell any of those in the know now in the Libertarian Party, like, you're fucking crazy and you're touting your own bullshit and you're doing all this stuff. It's like, no, we're living it. We're literally living it. And you guys are Trump humping and RFK humping and being crazy as fuck. And
Yeah. Well, so in general, in terms of planting the seeds, before I pass it to Kareem, I'll give you a reference here, and then like get your take. In terms of plant, well, I guess I'll just bash my mic with my knee. That'll work. In terms of getting the message out there, what would be like the ideal way to combat that? Because like, you know, I understand from your perspective that primarily what you do is just try to build your own networks of actually doing shit in the physical world instead of relying on outside assistance, especially from the government. And to me, that makes a great deal of sense. So you can talk briefly about that, but start with like rhetorically, how do you best counter these sorts of things in your own circles? Because, like, you were trying to hold these people accountable, and that didn't quite work because they don't need accountability if they're being corrupt. But, like, beyond those people in those corrupt circles, how would you best, like, let's say you wanted to reach somebody while they were young. What's your messaging approach, and how do you get that person to listen to you and then come on board?
well, like Josie, who was just on here earlier, now she's still in the kitchen with Walker. I was like, I'm getting out of here because I don't do rice well. So like they're taking care of the rice.
Yeah, and she's welcome, by the way, if she wants to talk more, she can do that. Because like this is a very open podcast.
Because Josie, I got to her like young when I was babysitting them, and I was like, yeah, well, the indoctrination centers are bad. They're not teaching you anything. And she's like, well, they're teaching me that Lincoln was a good guy. I was like, oh, Lincoln was a piece of shit, you know. And so like, you know. Yeah, and so we're talking about all the shit, and then one day she told her teacher, which made her mom really mad, by the way. She's like, you have to stop that. I was like, stop what? Telling her the truth. She's like, well, you're just an indoctrination center and you're lying to me. Yeah, and so that got more of her friends into it. And this girl is now 25 years old. So, like, I've been doing this for a long minute. So my thing is plant the seeds when they're young. Tell them, don't join the military. The military is bad. Don't do this thing. And sometimes they're gone. My own son joined, you know, so it was just like I planted the seed, but it took a minute for the seed to take hold till he was a little older. So it's like you just got to keep planting that seed and it will grow soon and it will create these beautiful humans. And they are beautiful. And like I said, in our own county, it took us many, many, many moons. But we, again, have no planning and zoning. We have no dog catcher. We have all the things. And like even my county commissioner that we had during that time that we were fighting, she became my state rep and fought everything during COVID. And she was only one vote, but she was like, well, these people planted the seed in me and I've taken it to Lansing. And like when Whitmer was doing all the Whitmer things, she was like, no. She was fighting against the Speaker of the House. I mean, and like I said, I don't want to toot my own horn. This wasn't just me. This is a bunch of people fighting because we all said we aren't going to do this anymore. But we're not like New Hampshire. We don't want all the press and, oh, yeah, but we have our own little libertarian anarchy zone. And if you look at the party rolls in Michigan, we get more votes for a libertarian candidate, but we don't have that Libertarian Party membership because, like I said, I'm really bad at getting people to join the party. I just get them to join a mindset where we don't want to play this stupid fucking game. We clean our own river. I mean, it's like I said, I could go on and on. Like we have national rivers and state rivers and whatever. We have a river that's beautiful for canoeing and doing all the things, but we do it all ourselves. We clean it up. We have little parks, we have little camp areas, and all of that is like local done without the government. And it's pretty fucking badass. And I can let anyone see what we've done, and it's great. And
yeah, so it's be the change kind of deal.
Do it.
Yeah,
put up signs. You know, we even have signs. Don't litter our fucking river, and we made those signs. You know. So
Kareem, from your point of view, like, have you done a significant amount of sort of activism in trying to convince people? And if so, what was your like sort of success story in like trying to sort of get people on board with a more leftward perspective? Because I think that was part of your thing.
I think it's a work in progress. I'll say that. I was going to comment on your last thing and say, like, hey, I really like what Gandhi's response was when they're like, what do you think of Western civilization? He said, I think it'd be a great idea. And to me, the way to actually have real civilization is to, not aggress against people. Now, my success so far is in that I got to join a lot of these, got to see a lot of these perspectives and what people are doing. For a long time, the right libertarian just said the left, is not doing anything. These left libertarians are not doing anything. And they conflate, and the language is confusing because they conflate liberal with leftist. A lot of people call Kamala Harris a leftist, and she's not. She's a neoliberal, which is a huge distinction. So I think some of the big things that hopefully I'll be able to do is keep working with Mad Liberty, keep spreading. I would say like finding Keith was a big win because now he has a framework. Okay, well, here's what pan-anarchy looks like. It's not just theory anymore. Then we can implement that. Oh, okay, we have this society, that society. The reason I think most civilizations suck is because there's a preconceived notion. Here's what we're doing. Here's what our values. Here's what our standards are. There's very, very little wiggle room to have like, hey, I disagree with that. Or I don't think we should be taxed, or I don't want to get involved with this. There's very little actual freedom of choice. I know people say, oh, well, capitalism gives you choice. Yeah, okay, fine. There's multiple flavors of ice cream I can get. George Carlin made the distinction. We make meaningless. We are given the illusion of freedom through meaningless choices. Yeah, there's 10 flavors of ice cream. There's multiple consoles. What if I said, hey, I don't want to pay taxes anymore? What if I said I wanted to opt out? What if I said the empire doesn't work anymore and everybody else does that as well? Could I do that? Can I get out of the system? Oh, well, no, I can't. So that's the actual issue. What success have I had? Well, I joined the Mises caucus, and I saw problems with there. I still think it can be turned around. I think the biggest thing we can do now is who's ever going to get elected in November, I'm pretty sure is going to screw things up. I don't really care. They're economically illiterate. They're illiterate in everything. So as things get bad, things get worse. Like, it's going to get a whole lot worse when it gets better. I think people will be more inclined to listen. Now, I'm going to try and make it out to Cooperation Tulsa, Denton, see what they're doing. But then, eventually, I think it's going to be possible that people will say, hey, I don't want to deal with this BS anymore. I don't want to deal with what's going on. Okay, good. And then what do we do? Well, I think there's a few options. But I think my biggest success will be convincing them that, like, hey, there's another way to do things. There's, anarchy isn't this big, scary thing. I think over time, people are coming into realization that, hey, this isn't good anymore. This isn't helping anymore. And I think I'd like to say we're getting closer. I'd like to say we're getting closer. I haven't had any major successes yet, but I think I will. I agree with you on Western civilization, that really what it is it's fake it's fake. What would be the best way to put it? It's a fake facade on a completely just degenerate and completely. It's a fake facade on a completely degenerate and dystopian society. So people say, "Oh, why?" People act like hey, we're all friendly, we're all buddies, blah blah blah. They just and they really just want something from you. I think the way Zach described it is we create a stateless, classless, moneyless society, a post-capitalist alternative. Then people aren't motivated to go after each other and to screw each other over. Maybe we'll see a better world. I don't know. Also, free market systems are a good alternative to that as well. Mutual aid societies, I'm not opposed to those. But I think my biggest success will be helping promote his film and helping promote his work. And then also convincing other people as I keep doing this, and we'll see.
Gotcha.
But
John.
yeah, maybe.
Sorry, what?
Maybe it was too hard, man. And also, maybe I was too hard on Karl Marx. Maybe I really was. It's just like, it's all bad. Like, did he have any points? Maybe he did. Well, nobody wants to talk about that. Or we can't talk about that. But he made a lot of mistakes, too. But still.
Well, we could definitely have a stream just like highlighting some of the leftist thinkers and like going over Karl Marx specifically quite a bit and discussing what he did get right, which was a substantial amount. People should read Das Kapital, which is basically just an economic critique. That is one of the things that people should really like. They should give more primacy to his letters, to Das Kapital, and to various like essays that he wrote. And all of this can be found on Marxist.org along with a whole lot of other thinkers' ideas. I'm not a Marxist, but he had decent economic critique in a variety of ways, and a lot of it was a lot more neutral than people who don't know Marx want you to think it was.
Yeah.
And like, I know this because I've listened to a significant enough amount of like these like leftist YouTubers go over his stuff, and I also have read multiple of his things multiple times to figure out that like he wasn't even really anti-capitalist in his own like personal estimation. He wasn't even that radical in terms of his own like general critique. He was just describing what capitalism is. And until like the capitalists were trying to rehabilitate their image as somehow the rebel anti-government fucks, they were totally fine with those appraisals. They were like, yeah, sure, we're the biggest, baddest asses out here. And if you try to challenge us, we'll fuck you up. They used to be on board with that analysis. But now you gotta be all like sensitive and you gotta appear like you're on the people's side or there might be a class war. So they're like, no, capitalism is when freedom. No, it's not. Anyway, John, you got your segments for us?
I have a few segments. I probably am gonna head off the call afterwards because I'm a bit tired, in all honesty.
Yeah, we'll be calling it in like 17 minutes, so we'll be doing closing statements soon. So I figure that we'll end on some of these more practical things. And I figure your passages here should be good for that purpose. And then we'll call it here, and we'll do another one tomorrow. So if you decide you want to show up, you can, but like this will be much earlier, so I'm not even sure that would work. It'll be either tomorrow or Tuesday. So, but like I figure we'll do your like statements here, like the passages from the book, and then we'll also do like the closing statements, and you can also give like a general closing statement. I'll put yours at the end so that you can cap it all off and respond to what people have said after your thing. But for now, what you got?
Well, I have a few. I couldn't necessarily, I'm not sure these are necessarily the best ones, but I think they're at least something good in regards to messaging and communication. So we have, and this is all from, of course, Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. I'd recommend anyone to get the book by either downloading free PDF or whatever. All right. One can lack any of the qualities of an organizer with one exception and still be effective and successful. That exception is the art of communication. It does not matter what you know about anything if you cannot communicate to your people. In that event, you are not even a failure, you're just not there. Communication with others takes place when they understand what you're trying to get across to them. If they don't understand, then you are not communicating, regardless of words, pictures, or anything else. People only understand things in terms of their experience, which means that you must get within their experience. Further, communication is a two-way process. If you try to get your ideas across to others without paying attention to what they have to say to you, you can forget about the whole thing. That was on page 81. On page 88, we have another segment. In mass organization, you can't go outside of people's actual experience. With Alinsky, I've been asked, for example, why I never talk to a Catholic priest or a Protestant minister or a rabbi in terms of the Judeo-Christian ethic or the Ten Commandments or the Sermon on the Mount. I never talk in those terms. Instead, I approach them on the basis of their own self-interest, the welfare of their church, even its physical property. If I approach them in a moralistic way, it would be outside their experience, because Christianity and Judeo-Christianity are outside of the experience of organized religion. They would just listen to me and very sympathetically tell me how noble I was. And the moment I walked out, they'd call their secretaries in and say, if that screwball ever shows up again, tell him I'm out. We have another passage here. It is not enough to persuade them, the people you wish to organize, of your competence, talents, and courage. They must have faith in your ability and courage. They must believe in your capacity, not just to provide the opportunity for action, power, change, adventure, a piece of the drama of life, but to give a very definite promise, almost an assurance of victory. They must also have faith in your courage to fight the oppressive establishment, courage that they too will begin to get once they have the protective armor of a power organization, but don't have during the first lonely steps forward.
Right.
All right.
So the general gist is actually have a concrete game plan that you can point them at. Try to understand where they're coming from and actually hear them out instead of just waiting for the thing you're going to say. And
that's definitely part of it. I have actually a few more.
Go for it. I thought you only had 3, but by all means.
No. You said you wanted passages. I got about 5.
Cool.
Plus, I'm going to be reading some of the rules of tactics because I think those are also interesting.
Go for it.
From the moment the organizer enters a community, he lives, dreams, eats, breathes, sleeps only one thing, and that is to build the mass power base of what he calls the army. Until he has developed that mass power base, he confronts no major issues. He has nothing with which to confront anything. Until he has those means and power instruments, his quote-unquote tactics are very different from power tactics. Therefore, every move revolves around one central point, How many recruits will this bring into the organization, whether by means of local organizations, churches, service groups, labor unions, corner gangs, or as individuals? The only issue is, how will this increase the strength of the organization? If by losing in a certain action he can get more members than by winning, then victory lies in losing and he will lose. Change comes from power, and power comes from organization. In order to act, people must get together. Power is the being of organizations. When people agree on certain religious ideas and want the power to propagate their faith, they organize and call it a church. When people agree on certain political ideas and want the power to put them into practice, they organize and call it a political party. The same reason holds across the board. Power and organization are one and the same. The organizer knows, for example, that his biggest job is to give the people the feeling that they can do something, that while they may accept the idea that organization means power, they have to experience this idea in action. The organizer's job is to begin to build confidence and hope in the idea of organization and thus in the people themselves, to win limited victories, each of which will build confidence in the feeling that, quote, if we can do so much with what we have now, just think what we'll be able to do when we get big and strong, end quote. We have also one more thing. The organizer simultaneously carries on many functions as he analyzes, attacks, and disrupts the prevailing power pattern. The ghetto or slum in which he is organizing is not a disorganized community. There is no such animal as a disorganized community. It is a contradiction in terms to use the two words disorganization and community together. The word community itself means an organized communal life, people living in an organized fashion. The people in the community may have experienced successive frustrations to the point that their will to participate has seemed to atrophy. They may be living in anonymity and may be starved for personal recognition. They may be suffering from various forms of deprivation and discrimination. They may have accepted anonymity and resigned in apathy. From your point of view, they may have a very negative form of existence, but the fact is that they are organized in that way of life. Call it organized apathy or organized non-participation, but that is their community pattern. They are living under a certain set of arrangements, standards, way of life. They may in short have surrendered, but life goes on in an organized form with a definite power structure, even if it is, as Thoreau called most lives, quiet desperation. Therefore, if your function is to attack apathy and get people to participate, it is necessary to attack the prevailing patterns of organized living in the community. The first step in community organization is community disorganization. The disruption of the present organization is the first step toward is the first step toward community organization. Present arrangements must be disorganized if they are to be displaced by new patterns that provide the opportunities and means for citizen participation. All change means disorganization of the old and organization of the new. The job then is getting the people to move, to act, to participate. In short, to develop and harness the necessary power to effectively conflict with the prevailing patterns and change them. When those prominent in the status quo turn and label you an agitator, they are completely correct. For that is, in one word, your function, to agitate to the point of conflict. And now, just a little bit of the rules of tactics, because I think those are interesting as well. I'm just going to list them all off as I read them. First rule of power tactics. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Second rule. Never go outside the experience of your people, which makes sense, as we said earlier. Third rule, whenever possible, go outside the experience of the enemy. Here you want to cause confusion, fear, and retreat. Fourth rule, make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. You can kill them with this, for they can no more obey their own rules than the Christian church can live up to Christianity. It carries with it the fifth rule. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. It's almost impossible to counterattack ridicule. Also, it infuriates the opposition, who then reacts to your advantage. The sixth rule. A good tactic is one that your people enjoy. If your people are not having a ball doing it, there is something very wrong with the tactic. Seventh rule. A tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Eighth rule. Keep the pressure on with different tactics and actions and utilize all events of the period for your purpose. Ninth rule. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. 10th rule, the major premise for tactics is the develop of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. 11th rule, if you push a negative hard and deep enough, it will break through into its counterside. This is based on the principle that every positive has its negative. So, for example, Gandhi, the British wouldn't allow the people of India to be armed, use nonviolent resistance in order to, and hunger strikes to protest against the government. You've made a negative of not being armed into a positive of using that disarmament to your advantage. Let's see. 12th rule. The price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. You cannot risk being trapped by the enemy in his sudden agreement with your demand and saying, "You're right. We don't know what to do about this issue. Now you tell us." And the 13th rule, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Let's see. I believe those are all the rules. So I'm just going to end it there because I could probably quote more, but then we'd be here all night.
All right. Well, that'll surely piss off the right people that we just read that. We absolutely don't endorse those tactics, but now we know them. Dana, we'll go to you, then we'll go to Kareem for closing statements. We're about to wrap because it's been nearly 2 hours. And then we'll pick this up at some point soon. I'm thinking probably, if anything, Tuesday. But the general vibe right now is we're doing closing statements. We'll go Dana, Kareem, and then John, and then I'll throw some words at the wall, and then we can clock and everybody can hit it. Because I know people are tired. I am one of them. I've still got to eat and do a workout and shit. But with all that being said, Dana, go for it. General, and we'll do a part 2. Because, there's a lot more to discuss here. And the garden is not yet, I don't think, fertile. And we can certainly apply some of these concepts that were just listed now that we are familiar with them. And we can start talking about those on another day. But, well, also just for everybody's information, we'll be doing more of these theory streams, and also there's going to be another LP corruption stream on Thursday. So hold your ass out for that one. Dana.
I will be well in line for that Thursday stream. We should get rid of all this. It should all be in its hanging space.
And... Oh, you're fine. I don't even think YouTube gives a shit, to be honest. I don't know. I've never had any issues there.
Yeah, this is the last of it. This is the last of the branches that were pushed out in the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of it's hanging where it hangs and doing its curing and all that stuff. I mean, I don't even know if they may not even know what that is. It looks like a really pretty herb, maybe some kind of a viney thing now that I look at it.
Yeah, Vine is, dead, so clearly those aren't real.
Right on. Yeah. But yeah. I went off on a rail and I did the way later shit, planting the seed is when you're sitting at the gas station and some dude goes, oh, gas is expensive. And you start talking about taxation is stuffed and government is stuffed and force is stuffed and we should just be able to do this stuff. That's where the seed is planted every time. And if you, like I said, I keep saying, talk to your young folk. I'm 52 years old. I've been doing this for like a minute. And I've been teaching the young folk since I was in my 20s. Pacifism. Not complete pacifism, but, close. Anti-war. All the things. Just be an anarchist. Be an agorist. Avoid the government as much as possible. And be free. And that is the seeds that you plant. And you nurture them, and you eventually get the community that you want, and you do the things. And it's so beautiful when it works out. And like you said, that's like 5 other streams if we do that. If we go into the next stream of LP corruption, that's even worse. That's gross. That is gross to me nowadays. But anyway, just plant the seeds, do what you got to do. Be free. Be free in your own heart. Be free. Have I harmed anyone? Have I taken their stuff? And if not, then we're good. And we teach everyone that. I could be reached on Facebook is the best place. And I have the LP Michigan discussion page on Facebook. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Kareem. If you didn't die, he might have been out of the room. I don't know.
Oh, he's under the desk and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. He's got to finish. He doesn't want to grunt on stream.
Yeah, I don't want to. Hey. No, but basically, I'll just say, look, you can find me on Twitter, Kareem6633. I'm battling evil. Michael Rectenwald's a nut. He just went total, Third Reich, so that's crazy. But definitely check out as well Anarch Unity. Check out, what is it? Attack the System. And Essential Libertarians as well. Jeremiah Talks. And Moneyless Society with Zachary Marlowe. Where we are creating, I was joking with Brett, a post-capitalist moneyless society based on consensus and direct democracy. It's not that other scary C word.
China.
Yeah, China. But yeah, and go check out his. We're gonna get a GoFundMe up for his film, so go check that out. Yeah. All right, that's all I got.
John, closing statements.
I'm not sure I have much to add. Read Saul Alinsky. Would recommend his work a good amount. I would also recommend reading Randy Shaw's The Activist Handbook. Has some good information there as well. In general, even if you don't go to the specific theory depth, read books in regards to organizing communities. Read stuff about how to maybe learn stuff about how to do tasks such as create community gardens or maybe helping with services. Talk with your neighbors. Do more talking with your neighbors. Invite them to a giant potluck. Do something do some crazy shit of making friends with absolute strangers. Just talk with them and try talking to them about stuff that's happening now. See what you can do to help to communicate with them in a way that later on you can organize with them to create action. Even in regards to your Libertarian Party, help work with people in your Libertarian Party, work with people in your local Socialist Party, in your local Democratic Socialist Party, work with people in your local co-ops, in your local charities. Do what you can to connect and organize with each other and to create a community that is for the well-being and flourishing of everyone and for the full freedom of everyone. Do what you can to create the new society and to shell the old. In regards to socials, for most part, you can find uh, the official Liberty Centuries Twitter page at Liberty Centuries. You can also find us on Medium, where we publish a good amount of articles, both on current events, such as criticizing the Libertarian Party currently, as well as on specific theory or philosophy. And yeah, that is it for me.
All right. I'll just leave it with this. Recognize that there are people in this movement trying to hold you back. Recognize what about that would hold you back and the culture in general. And don't be like that. Because ultimately, the truth is, they want us divided. They want us to hate each other. They want us to wield the party like a weapon rather than use it as a representation of the actual body. And they want to use these sorts of mentalities to divide us. And in the broader libertarian movement, because most libertarians aren't in the party, believe it or not, in the broader libertarian movement, they're doing shit that your local party might call communist. Do it anyway. They're doing shit that your local leftists might have a problem with because it doesn't tick certain boxes. Do it anyway. Try to find ways to interface with those people and then bring them to standard. And actually try to get their missions aligned with one another. Because ultimately, the difference between your group and their group is often the fact that they've never even considered hearing each other out. They've never even considered talking to each other and finding common ground. And also, they've found ways to justify that lack of consideration. They've found ways to rationalize dismissiveness or, some general platform of superiority. Don't be like that. Try to understand that these are people coming from their own space and their own positions, and try to meet them where they are and bring them toward liberty, because there's so many people who are sick of this system and don't see a different way out. You can be that way. And the more you try not to be, the more you move against that, the more you become the thing that the state wants you to be, a divided pawn, the less power you have. You got to start making moves if you want to upgrade your piece. And if you want to upgrade your position, you've got to start actually understanding the levels on which we lie. We are not the king. We are not Trump. We are not Kamala. We are not the people who run the system. We are the system that they run. And we need to understand that, because the sooner we understand that, the sooner we realize we are the gears that turn, the sooner we can stop. It doesn't matter how many teeth they take from us. As long as their machine doesn't work, we win. So, start stripping them gears. Start throwing things in there. Start doing whatever you can to make their machine stop. And then, don't just do that. Because there's a lot of people who rely on this machine. Be the alternative when that machine comes to a grinding halt that they can turn to, so that you're not just the asshole who destroyed what they had, and so that they have a person that they can then be like, well, you know what, this might even be a better option. That way you don't lose. Because in the days of old, when they were sieging castles and, taking over certain elements of the shogunate, when there were battles and great wars and victories and shit, one thing was true. When you took over a certain province, when your battle was successful, you still had the battle afterward of making the people there at peace enough that they weren't going to do shit about it. That they were going to find ways to settle into the new environment. You can either do that by ruling with an iron fist, which is guaranteed to get you rebellion, or you can try to find ways that the common person can interface with what you're doing. And we're not even doing war here. That's one of the things that irritates me, is when people say, oh, we're at war. You're tweeting, motherfucker. Ultimately, even if we don't achieve anything similar to what those great warriors of the past did, we still have to use the tactics if we're going to say that the old system is wrong and we're going to put our backs into getting rid of it, and we don't have shit to replace it with. We're no better than the despots. So we need to build that shit now so that we have a fallback option for when their system collapses. And we need to be instrumental in doing that so that we can be the party that was right and the party that was right there. That's what we need to do. And until we recognize our similarities enough to drop the pretense of the divide and conquer agenda, like, you know, the latest, like, whipping boy, trans people, Haitian migrants, whatever the thing is, until we get over this pretense that we're superior without proving it, we will never get there. We'll just be the same drunken, sloppy messes that we've always been, and we'll end up, you know, for instance, arguing about the colors in a flag rather than doing anything about the ones that hang over the Capitol. The ultimate truth is they have our brains, they have our souls, and they have our hearts, and the sooner we seize that back and build the new culture and the new physical foundation, the sooner we can actually achieve liberty. And until we're willing to work toward that future, we'll do nothing to smash the fucking state.